Now that the 2022 season has officially closed, I wanted to dive into your waiver wires one last time to find players to pick up and stash for the 2023 offseason. Now, I'm sure that a lot of these guys are probably going to get destroyed by free agency or the NFL draft, but if even one or two of them hit, then I think it's well worth it. Let's first look at the quarterback position, specifically in your Superflex leagues, and let's also double check your waiver wires and immediately add any of these guys if they are available, and that's Taylor Heineke, Sam Howell, Brock Purdy, Mike White, and Bailey Zappi. Now, the first quarterback that I want to highlight specifically is Jarrett Stidham, who I do believe will get a chance to compete for the Raiders starting job in 2023. They do have the 1.07 in the NFL draft, which means they'll have to make a decision on either Anthony Richardson or Will Levis if they wanted to take a quarterback in the first this year, or they could sign someone like Jameis Winston, Jimmy Garoppolo in free agency, or make some sort of splash trade at the position, maybe in the same deal in which they trade away Derek Carr. But if they don't make a significant move, then Stidham would almost assuredly have the first crack of the job, and you can either sell for a good ROI on a waiver wire ad or see if he's actually a good play, as he put up 360-3 against the Niners last week and 220-1 against the Chiefs this past Sunday. The second quarterback is Kyle Trask, who I think is a good stash in the event that Tom Brady retires or the rumors of him playing elsewhere in 2023 are actually true. If Brady does leave, then Trask could see a value bump on what I would imagine be the beginning of a rebuild in Tampa Bay. He didn't look all that good on Sunday, but if anything, you can add Trask now and sell for like a fourth-round rookie pick, even in Superflex, when Brady leaves, and I think that in and of itself would be worth it entirely. Let's move over to running backs, and again, double check your waiver wires and immediately add any of these guys if they are available, and that's Jaylen Warren, Keontae Ingram, Jerome Ford, and Zonovan Knight. So first on our list at the running back position is JaMycal Hasty. And I mean, I don't really know what more to say about him that I haven't already said already this entire season. He's a restricted free agent, but I would imagine he's back in Jacksonville on a really cheap tender. He is the direct handcuff to Travis Etienne, and all he needs to do is survive the offseason, and he'll stay in that same role again in 2023. So roster him now, see what happens, then either cut him in May if they do add someone, or keep him as a really good handcuff in 2023. In a similar situation as Hasty, Treston Ebner could see a value increase depending on what the Bears do in the spring. David Montgomery is a free agent, and if he does sign elsewhere and the Bears don't add anyone significant in free agency, we'll have a 2-month period of time where Ebner is practically the RB2 on the team for the Bears, and he could be worth something, even just a 4th-round pick. So add him now and decide what to do with him in a couple months. And finally, keeping in the spirit of handcuffs, DJ Dallas is another direct handcuff to a young, high-volume starter in Kenneth Walker, and he is still on his rookie deal. The Seahawks have a ton of picks in 2023 from the Russell Wilson trade, but I highly doubt that they go out and they draft anyone in the first 2 to 3 rounds, meaning Dallas will have to compete with a day 3 rookie as the RB2 behind Walker, and given his experience in the offense already, it's likely that Dallas can just keep that RB2 job over that rookie. So like Hasty and Ebner, just add Dallas now and see what happens in the spring. Moving over to wide receiver, again, double check your waiver wires and immediately add any of these guys if they are available, and that's Darius Slayton, Jarvis Landry, and Russell Gage. So first up at wide receiver, this is probably my favorite waiver wire stash for the entire offseason if you can still get him at that price, and that's Saints wide receiver Rashid Shaheed. Since week 13, Shaheed has played multiple games of 60-plus snaps, has seen no fewer than 4 targets in every single game, and caught 4 or more receptions in 3 out of those 5 games. If you take his stats since week 12, his 17-game pace is 62 receptions for over 1,000 yards and 3 to 4 touchdowns. That is insane production just chilling on your waiver wire right now. Sure, the Saints can just go out and draft a wide receiver, and now Shaheed is that really fast, like, team wide receiver 3 or 4, but if they don't add anyone significant, Shaheed could be in a MVS role, a Gabe Davis role, Donovan Peoples-Jones role in this Saints offense. Those guys are rostered in every single Dynasty league, yet Shaheed is doing the same exact thing now production-wise, and he's on a lot of waiver wires out there. So go pick out Rashid Shaheed. Next up is Noah Brown, and I'll be honest, I think that Noah Brown is just a really good NFL wide receiver that could see fantasy relevance if receivers ahead of him on the depth chart get hurt. I do expect the Cowboys to add a wide receiver in the draft to boost their wide receiver core, even potentially with their late 1st-round pick. But if they don't add anyone, Brown could be a solid back-end stash throughout the offseason. And I just think he's a good wide receiver, so I'd pick him up. There's worse things to do with the back end of your roster than Noah Brown. Next up, let's go over to Greg Dortch, because this Cardinals team could look a lot different in 2023 top to bottom. I mean, there could be major front office changes, coaching staff changes, player changes, and this team could be looking at a mini rebuild as Kyler Murray recovers from the ACL injury. There are already rumors that DeAndre Hopkins could be on the move in the spring, and if those rumors are true, Dortch becomes the wide receiver 3 on this team behind Marquise Brown and Rondale Moore. Again, sure, they could add somebody just like anybody else in free agency or the NFL draft, but Dortch has shown his talent multiple times throughout this season, and he could be a part of their mini rebuild plans as a young, cheap, but productive receiver. Do you guys remember Tim Patrick, the Broncos wide receiver 3 who signed a big extension in the offseason but then tore his ACL before the season even started? That Tim Patrick? Well, he's currently rostered apparently in only 75% of Dynasty leagues on MFL, and if he comes back healthy in 2023, not only will he be rostered in every single league by then, but potentially worth at least a third, if not more. So you need to pick Tim Patrick up now before anybody else notices that he's out there and then remembers, oh, hey, I remember that we used to really like that guy. And the last receiver I just wanted to throw out there as like the most dart throwiest of dart throws is Danny Gray. And there's not really much to say about him after a quiet rookie season, but he was drafted in the 3rd round last year. Maybe he sees a bigger role in 2023. He's probably nothing, but there are worse players to be stashing at the back end of your roster, I think, than Danny Gray. And then finally, we get to tight ends, and y'all know the drill. Double check and add these guys if they are available. And that's Isaiah Likely, Jelani Woods, Cade Otton, Daniel Bellinger, Chigozium Okonkwo, Foster Moreau, and Juwan Johnson. So first up, I want to talk about Albert Okwuegbunam, who apparently is available in almost 15% of Dynasty leagues on myfantasyleague.com. If you didn't buy an Alberto as a breakout tight end in 2022, then good for you. You hit on that. But now he's a waiver wire player that can just be added for free, and that is worth doing, I think. In his first game back since October 6th, Okwuegbunam put up 45 yards on 6 targets and found pay dirt on a 25-yard touchdown 2 weeks ago. I honestly believe a lot of the turmoil for the Broncos this year can be placed on Nathaniel Hackett, and now that he's gone, that could be a huge positive for Alberto's dynasty value. He's worth an add off the waiver wire right now on the hope that maybe we were just a year early on his breakout, or at the very least, he has some sort of streamer potential at the tight end position. And lastly, probably my second favorite stash in this video behind Rashid Shaheed is Jake Ferguson, who, if you don't know who that is the backup tight end for the Dallas Cowboys, who they drafted in the 4th round in the 2022 draft. Dalton Schultz is a free agent, and he could sign elsewhere as arguably the best free agent tight end on the market this offseason. And Ferguson is almost an exact replica of Dalton Schultz in terms of measurables and athleticism, and he could take over as the starting tight end for Dak Prescott in 2023, which has been shown to be an extremely valuable role for fantasy over the last couple of years with Dalton Schultz. So add him, stash him, see what happens in the offseason. That's the name of the game for this video. And just a little bit ago, Justin went over a whole suite of players to stash for 2023 that aren't waiver wire cheap, but they're still really, really cheap to acquire right now. And my favorite of those videos was the wide receiver one that you can watch right up here.